Hi, welcome back once again to cbseboard economics. I'm Saddam Hussain here. I welcome you all. Today we'll be discussing about indifference curve analysis. To understand the consumer's equilibrium, you should have the concepts in indifference curve analysis. Indifference curve approach or analysis is different from utility analysis or utility approach. The first concept you should be familiar with in indifference curve is indifference schedule. What exactly is an indifference schedule and what exactly is marginal rate of substitution? Please carefully follow. What is an indifference schedule? An indifference schedule, get the concept first, then I'll explain with the help of a board. An indifference schedule shows different combination of two commodities that gives the consumer some level of satisfaction. We can't measure utility here like the way you did it in utility analysis. What exactly an indifference schedule? An indifference schedule shows different combination of two commodities that give the equal satisfaction to the consumer. Since the consumer is getting same satisfaction from all the combinations, the consumer is indifferent. He's not able to take a decision which one should I have. Should I take A combination or B or C or D? That's why it's called indifference schedule, because all are giving you same level of satisfaction. The consumer is not able to decide which one to have. That's why it is called indifference schedule. To understand it further, we'll take another simple example. So whether you have one black t-shirt and 4 red t-shirts, so this 4 red t-shirts and 1 black t-shirt is giving you some level of satisfaction. Or as you increase the black t-shirts, you have to reduce the red t-shirts. So maybe you reduced it by 2, that means here 2 and here, that's also is giving you the same level of satisfaction. But the consumer is not able to decide A or B, that's why it is called indifference schedule. So look at the table, you understand better from the table. I'll go off the board here. Can you see this? What is an indifference schedule and MRS, that is marginal rate of substitution? Look at the table, the whole answer you have it from the table of there are 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. In the first column you have combinations. How many combinations means how many of good X and how many of good Y you have. So combinations, the first A combination you have good X units, 1 you have it, maybe you take it as apples, and good Y oranges maybe 8. It's giving you some level of psychological satisfaction. Since we can't measure utility in indifference curve analysis, we are not writing any utility, you are getting some satisfaction by having 1 unit of good X and 8 units of good Y. B combination. So when you move from A to B, that means you increased here the good X by 1 unit, 1 to 2. So when you increased it here, you have to decrease good Y from 8 to 4. What it means, you just understand here, why do you have to decrease good Y? There are 2 reasons behind it. Number 1, you are constrained by your income, because you have some limited income, so you are diverting your expenditure from good Y to good X. When you are buying more of good X, you have to give up good Y. That's why you gave up 4 units of good Y to get 1 more unit of good X. And combination C, you further increased it to 1 more from 2 to 3. So obviously I told you, because you are constrained by your income, you have to decrease your good Y. So when you go from C to D, you increased 1 more unit of good X and you decreased here 1 more unit of good Y. So what do we conclude from here? A, B, C, D are combinations. All these combinations are giving equal level of satisfaction to the consumer. Whether you have more of good X or more of good Y, but they're all giving you same level of satisfaction. That's why the consumer is indifferent. He's not able to decide whether to have A, B, C or D. That's why it's called indifferent schedule. Now come to the next point. Why does the consumer decrease good Y to obtain good X? There are two reasons behind it. Number one, he is constrained by income. He's got limited income to spend on both the commodities. Only when he decreases the consumption of good Y, he can increase the consumption of good X. So how can you increase the consumption of good X without decreasing good Y? Because you have limited income. That's the first point. Second point, if you do not decrease the consumption of good Y and you go on increase the consumption of good X, though this is a hypothetical situation, that means the level of satisfaction you get from B is more than A combination, the combination of C is more than A, D is much more than ABC, which is contrary to the assumption of indifference curve analysis. I hope you got it. To maintain the same level of satisfaction, you have to sacrifice good Y. The other reason I told you is that you are constrained by your income. Now come to last one, MRS, that is known as marginal rate of substitution. What exactly is MRS? Look at this table carefully. So at combination A, the consumer is having good X 1 and good Y 8. There is no sacrifice involved here. When he goes from A to B, so he increased the consumption of good X by 1 unit, 1 to 2. So obviously he has to decrease the consumption of good Y. He decreased from 8 to 4. In simple words, he gave up 4 units of good Y to get 1 unit of good X. That's why we wrote it here, 4Y is to 1X. To get 1X, he has given up 4Y. Now come to C combination. To get one more of good X, he sacrificed from 4 to 2. That means 2Y is to 1X. That means he has given up 2 now instead of 4. And D possibility or combination, he increased the consumption of good X by 1 more unit, and here good Y decreased from 2 to 1 more unit. That means 1Y is to 1X. So now here ratios, look at the ratios carefully. 4Y is to 1X, 2Y is to 1X, 1Y is 1X. What is happening here? The sacrifice of good Y is decreasing, 4 to 1. Now you may be wondering why the consumer is decreasing, right? For the first to get 1 more unit of good X, he gave up 4 to get 1 more unit of good X, 2 less and further less. Why it is happening? This is, you learned it in utility analysis. This is because of law of diminishing marginal utility. As you know, as the consumer goes on consuming more and more of good X, his satisfaction from good X keeps on decreasing because of law of diminishing marginal utility. Hence the consumer is willing to give up less and less of good Y. I hope you got it. Why he is decreasing? Because his satisfaction from good X is decreasing, and that's why he is willing to give up less and less of good Y. This is known as MRS. To put it in one sentence, how do you define MRS? It is the rate of sacrifice of one commodity in order to gain 1 more unit of the other commodity. Or to see it from the table, rate of sacrifice of good Y to obtain 1 more unit of good X. The formula MRS XY is equal to delta Y upon delta X. What it means? Amount of or units of good Y sacrificed upon units of good X gain. That is sacrifice upon gain, that is MRS. So we repeat once again what you learned. What is an indifferent schedule? An indifferent schedule shows different combination of 2 commodities that gives the consumer same level of satisfaction. Since all the combinations are giving him same level of satisfaction, the consumer is not able to decide which combination he should have, whether A or B or C or D. That's why it's called indifferent schedule. 2 points you have to remember here. When the consumer consumes more of good X, he has to sacrifice good Y. There are 2 reasons behind it. Number 1 is he is constrained by his income. Number 2 is to maintain the same level of satisfaction. To maintain the same level of satisfaction means if he goes on consuming more and more units of good X without sacrificing good Y, his level of satisfaction from B, C, D keep on increasing, which is contrary to the assumption of indifference curve analysis. What is MRS? It is the rate of sacrifice of one commodity in order to obtain 1 more unit of another commodity, that is the number of units you're sacrificing of y to get one more unit of x, that is MRS. MRS is equal to delta y upon delta x. Delta is change in y, that is of course sacrifice, upon delta x is change in x, that is of course the gain which you are getting it. So please, the notes is given here. As you listen to the notes, copy it in your notebook and try to learn it. That's all we have time for today. Till we meet next time, it's goodbye from Saddam Hussein. Don't forget to share, subscribe and like our videos.